Several plays later on 3rd and 12, Hadel went to Jackson again for the touchdown. The Rams had scored twice in 2 minutes. Let's take another look at the score by the smallest but fastest Ram, Harold Jackson. This kind of speed at wide receiver is something the Rams have been missing for several years. Jackson, of course, joined the team just this year in the Roman Gabriel trade, although he was originally drafted by Los Angeles. They gave him up in 1968 in George Allen's worst trade as Ram coach.
But Namath sent his team soaring to the early lead with a skyscraper to tiny Harold Jackson.
And Jackson was at his greatest, cleanly beating Jim Marsalis for a second Eagle touchdown from 36 yards out. Jackson, a 9'3", 100 man, currently is the league's leading receiver. But it was not stats that had the Eagles flying. They were simply pumping the adrenaline and led 14-0.
10 remaining here in the third. Wide open is Jackson. Stays on his feet, and Harold Jackson in the end zone, and a stunned Houston defense, who obviously had committed an error, left Jackson wide open.
But it was only the beginning, because in the fourth quarter, Harris was trying to reestablish a habit as he threw another one for Jackson to run under. Harold's diving catch summed up the 21-0 LA victory and promised a renewed dimension of offensive fireworks for the playoff-bound Rams.
The others sailed 40 yards to wide-open Harold Jackson, and the Rams were able to remain just one half game behind San Francisco at the season's halfway point.
New England wide receiver Harold Jackson's 40-yard touchdown pass from Steve Grogan was the big play that put the Patriots ahead in the final period, winning 27-23. Preseason favorites to win the AFC Eastern title, the Patriots at 9-7 finished out of the playoffs. A talent-filled team it seemed, but only on paper.
Lisk heaved one for Jackson, who this time beat Marsalis by even more.
Finally, Harris capped his debut with another toss and sprint to Swift Harold to make the final Los Angeles 37, San Francisco 14. Early in period 4, number 29 Harold Jackson stretched a simple crossing pattern into 6 points as New England took a 5-point lead going into the stretch.
Just before the half, John Hadel and Harold Jackson teamed up once again.
In New England, the man in the fishbowl is Steve Grogan. For a change of pace, Grogan went the other way, and veteran Harold Jackson accepted 3 perfectly thrown scores. It was a record-breaking offensive performance by the Patriots, 56-3.
5-year building program, and they're on schedule.
3rd and 10. Hayden going deep. Jackson is up there. Touchdown! Harold Jackson on a 52-yard touchdown play. Mike Washington got lost on the coverage, and Jackson was roaming around behind him.
Again, he had good protection going back. He looks that way, but has to come out of the pocket on the rush and comes right back. And Jackson slipped and fell a little bit, regained his composure, regained his footing.
Harris put the master strokes on a perfectly executed victory by hitting Harold Jackson for 2 touchdowns. The final score of 42-3 gave the win-streaking Rams a 6-1 record. And for the 3rd year in a row, it looked like the division crown was going to fit.
But in his finest day as a pro, Snead had too many outlets. He looked the other way, found tiny Harold Jackson, number 29, and pitched his 5th touchdown pass, tying another Eagle team record and giving Philadelphia an impressive 41-27 victory.
And
And what better way to end the day that made their record 8-2 than with an easy 57-yard hookup between the ever-dangerous John Hadel and Harold Jackson duo.
The strategy paid off quickly when Hadel reared back and let it fly to Harold Jackson on the 20. The result was a 63-yard touchdown and a Los Angeles lead. A repeat of the bomb shows how far Jackson beat number 41, cornerback Charlie Waters, on the play. Waters was the victim several times, and the Cowboys lost to Washington the week before.
But every time the Giants drew near, Pete Lisk unleashed a sky bolt to one of his receivers. This time it was speedy Harold Jackson, and the Philadelphia lead ballooned to 41-14.
In the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum last year, the Rams knocked St. Louis out of the playoffs. Number 11, Pat Hayden, was not there last year. But last week, he and Harold Jackson made it look like the same kind of game. The Rams led 14-6 at the half.
Snead's only glorious moment came on a 65-yard touchdown pass to diminutive Harold Jackson, number 29.
Unlike most people who are usually lens shy, when Los Angelinos see one pointed at them, they light up and put on a show. Ron Jaworski must have heard those cameras grinding again, because the Polish rifle whipped a bullet far down range to Harold Jackson.
The Hadel-Jackson combine worked again for a 67-yard touchdown. Now the Rams led again by 14. Los Angeles' game plan was pure perfection.
With the game under control and all the time in the world to throw, Hadel unloaded a 69-yard shot to Jackson, who streaked in to make it 28-12. A simple lob to speedy Harold Jackson, number 29, another of Philadelphia's rediscovered receiving threats.
The only bright spot for the Eagles came on a John Reeves bomb to Harold Jackson. It was the lone Philadelphia touchdown of the afternoon. Swift Harold retained the NFL receiving lead, his team notwithstanding, and now has accumulated over 900 aerial yards.
And new life to Harold Jackson, who caught 2 touchdown passes and was having a field day against the Giants' left cornerback position as the Eagles rallied to a 23-all tie.
Zorn going for a touchdown. This one's going to stand. Harold Jackson. Jackson making the catch as he whirled around in front of the rookie Danny Walters. Did quite a number on it.